8 years ago, I set out to look at a number of different issues that might be important for us locally to have a good story on. Housing, early childhood, agriculture. And so when the kind of promise came out with the One Nova Scotia Coalition, and they said, 7 priority areas. Number 1, earlier starting strong. How the hell did they come up with that? These guys were saying, we're screwed, our population's down, we need the economy boosted, blah, blah, blah. Ivany going on and on and on. He didn't once mention early childhood. So somehow, someone, Gaynor, Watson, Creed, or someone got in there and got everyone thinking across these 15 sectors. It included the First Nations, the business leaders, the 3 parties, and they actually came up with the earlier starting strong. But in that earlier starting strong, you can think of like school readiness, they talked about welcoming communities. And they talked about basing it on a First Nations approach. So if we take a lesson from the First Nations, it might look a little different than our box, which is childcare, and removes the community from the lives of our youngest citizens. It might look a little different if we look at the lens of what intergenerationally used to support the lives of our First Nations communities, as well as most of the settler communities initially. So we took that in 2015. That's election year. Municipal councillors have to get elected 2016. So I didn't take the bite right there. I said, okay, let's just see if I get elected again, because that'll give me a 4-year ramp. And this is a big one. So I got elected in 2016, hooked my claws into Christine, who just happened to move into the community with a position by public health that's about community. And Christine and I got talking, and I'm going to turn it over to her. Because what I basically done is said, we need to look at creating the welcoming communities and spaces, dedicated spaces, where our youngest citizens can connect to what they need and gain a sense of belonging from the beginning of life. Our rural communities have lost more of the connectivity than any other place on the planet. Every urban community has kind of managed to find new cafes and places to gather. Our rural communities have left it to the co-op as the only gathering spot that's consistently there 6 days a week. We've left it to the co-op, that's where we gather. And so now it's time to just awaken rural communities, our youngest citizens. I'll just put this one last statistic out, because it's important to recognize that I think they were right in the One Nova Scotia Coalition. I think they were right. They said we need to focus on the earlier starting strong, because 1 out of 3 right now of our youngest citizens is headed for a difficult life.
I do get excited about it, and this is a project that's near and dear to my heart. I came here, it was a fabulous opportunity career-wise, coming in to get to work on childhood poverty. That's what I was brought into the community to work on by public health, and I believe I'm the only one in the province, the only health promoter, working on child poverty directly. That was the task I was given. And I had to cover all of Western Cape Breton, Inverness, Victoria counties, Port Hawkesbury. That was my whole region. And so when I first got here, I had no connection. And I came here with my own 2 little boys who were 3 and 5 at the time. So building a community for them is also very personally important. I got together with Jim after he was reelected. And we met Sarah Thompson from Halifax. And we came up with this idea, we need to get our municipalities involved. We need to get our First Nation band councils together. And so we had January 24th, 2017 was our first meeting. This was before we even came up with Raising the Villages. We brought all of the municipal and band councils people together, and we all agreed that we need to address the needs of our youngest citizens. From that, we had a community-wide gathering, and I'll add that the Rural Communities Foundation funds have helped support throughout for the research and the gatherings and the communications parts, and it's been key for us keeping going. We had our community-wide event, and that's where we came up with Raising the Villages, Mawiomi W'jit Mijuwajijk. Not saying it perfectly, but I'm getting there, which means raising the villages, gathering for our children. And from there we came up, we needed to do research. We needed to know what's working in our communities, what is helping people thrive, what do we need to change, and what do we need more of in our communities. So we embarked on a 6 to 8 month journey of going out to community events, gathering data. We had an online survey, an in-person survey, we did some pop-up events, and we weren't quite getting what we needed back, not enough people participating. So we challenged our municipal councils and our band councils to host an event in their community called Welcoming Our Youngest Citizens, and we're hoping this will become an annual event. It's where they brought in, they put it out as an invitation to celebrate our youngest citizens, to connect them with community members and elders, and each community we work with, I don't know how many we had about 11 gatherings that time. Each community interpreted it and did it differently, but it was beautiful each time. I was at the one in Wagmacook, and it was the youngest children and a lot of youth, and that was their feel, and they got to connect the young children and the youth, and they were playing catch in the great hall for gathering. And then in Shetty Camp, it was babies and seniors. They held it at the seniors' home, and there's some, I wasn't there, but the feedback of that was beautiful. The pictures of just these little babies and their elders just cuddling and loving at each other is one of the best things. And then from that, we gathered even more data, and we put it all together. And out of it, we came up with a declaration. And this is what our municipal councils and the band councils all signed together. It's 4 main action principles. The first is welcoming communities and spaces. So we are going to work together to create welcoming communities and develop spaces that are dedicated, that are open, that are accessible for all. The second is reconciliation in action, where we need to connect and learn our history in depth as newcomers, as settlers, and hear the Mi'kmaq story and learn. They have so much guidance and wisdom to share as we move forward, and it's a huge part of this. The third that we have is community-informed decision-making. We need, as people in our communities, we need to be able to let go of some of our, to gain some political prosperity as individuals and citizens. We need to be able to tell our councils what we need, and we need to have mechanisms for them to be able to listen and share as we move forward and address the needs together. The final is communicating, coordinating, and connecting. And this is about our service providers. We need to coordinate and maybe examine how services are administered in rural communities. We need to come up with innovative ways to ensure that our children in our communities are getting what they need, when they need it, where they need it. And so with these 4 action principles, we're moving forward together.